Amy Ivy is back with us this week. If you're a gardener, you know it can be a haven for bugs. Some, like the Japanese beetle, absolutely love to devour your plants. But others can actually be beneficial to your garden. Amy Ivy is back with us in the garden. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Tom.
It is the peak of the gardening season. Beautiful vegetables that we see out here, but there are challenges when it comes to vegetable gardens.
Yeah, growing a garden isn't all, peaches and cream. There are problems that come up, and gardeners learn to, deal with them. It's a humbling experience sometimes to be a gardener.
What are some of the things that you're seeing here that you need to look out for this time of year?
Right now, we are seeing a huge outbreak of Japanese beetles. They have just exploded. We've had them for years, and some areas have had them worse than other areas, but they have become very widespread, and they make a very characteristic damage. One of the things about Japanese beetles is they have a wide host range. Some bugs are pretty specific and will only feed on a certain family of plants or one particular plant. Japanese beetles are not nearly so fussy, unfortunately. And one of the things they do, you usually will see the adult. They're pretty easy to see. They're very recognizable, but you also will see this characteristic damage. They just turn the leaf to lace like that. See, nothing else makes it quite so lacy. As compared to another common pest we have, which are flea beetles. And flea beetles pretty much pulverize almost a perfectly round hole in the leaf. And see how many holes. They just like a BB gun, shot the leaf, many holes on the leaf. Flea beetles typically stick with the broccoli family. So the broccoli, cabbage, kale, the Chinese cabbage, they love anything in the Chinese cabbage department. Here's a squash plant, and when I look at that, what I can see are I see the yellow spots just beginning, and then I see this dried out section here too. So it's good to take a look at the plant and see if you see clues like that, and then turn it over, and you may be surprised at what you find. And so here are newly hatched squash bugs. These are the nymphs, the young stage of the squash bugs. And they are causing this dry, browning damage here. So powdery mildew is a really common problem on any of the squash family. There is some resistance that you can look for with different varieties. But so here's the powdery mildew. And then I see this dry kind of burning here. That makes me suspicious also. So turn the leaf over. It's always a good idea to turn the leaf over. And sure enough, look at all the squash bugs, the newly hatched. These are very young squash bugs. They'll get much bigger as they grow. And then you can see the developing, this is the powdery mildew, this white powder, which will eventually turn the whole leaf brown. So another thing you can do when you're in the garden looking around, checking for problems, turn the leaves over and then look for eggs, look for bugs, look for the beginning stages of disease. So nipping things in the bud when they're, before they get to be too big of a problem is a lot easier. Because there's so many different things that could be out there between the bugs and then some of the diseases like the powdery mildew, squash bugs, various things, it's always important to know what you're dealing with, to properly identify the pest, because each one has a different life cycle and a different weak point. When you want to try and deal with it, if it's hand picking or whatever approach you might be taking, knowing its weakest point really helps you strategize as to when the best time is to either crush the eggs or whatever it might be. So proper identification is really, really important.
When it comes to the Japanese beetle, that much damage, people probably wonder, does that kill the plant, or can that plant still survive and do the vegetables survive?
Yeah, it's a matter of degree. I mean, even on this leaf, there still is some green tissue there, but if the whole plant is 50% gone, that's really going to compromise that plant's ability to, a bean, it takes a lot of energy to produce that bean, to fill it out and make it nice and tender and everything. So a plant that is really hit hard is going to have a limited crop and maybe not quite as tasty of a crop, maybe a little more tough.
This time of year, can you still use pesticides to deal with Japanese beetles?
Yes, you can, and but we always ask people to read the label carefully, make sure the pest is on the label, make sure your crop is on the label, and then choose the least toxic thing. Start there and then move on through if you need to. There's a whole toolbox of things you can do. There are a lot of cultural things in terms of hand picking and covering and traps and things you can do first before you move on to the pesticide things.
And of course, if folks have questions about what types of pesticides to use, whether to go organic, whether there are alternatives, they can come to the Cornell Cooperative Extension, and you folks can obviously always just help them and give them advice.
Yeah, we'd be happy to help people, and we don't promote one over another, and we give the range and let people decide which is the best fit for them.
Good, thanks Amy, we
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
You're well, thank you.